Pope Francis has left Peru after celebrating an open-air mass for more than 1 million people in the capital. In the final hours of his 6-day visit, which began in Chile, Francis warned that much of Latin America was in deep crisis from corruption scandals and greed run amok. A society unable to accept its suffering members and incapable of helping to share their suffering and to bear it inwardly through compassion is a cruel and inhumane society. The Mass ended a visit which has been marked by a backlash over what many see as the pontiff's insufficient resolve to tackle sexual abuse in the church. In Chile, Francis sparked outrage by saying criticism of a bishop he appointed who is accused of protecting a paedophile was all slander. But in Peru, where Francis had a more enthusiastic reception, he was wished a warm farewell as he left to fly back to Rome.
Denmark's prosecutor has rejected a possible arrest warrant against exiled former Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont. Spain's state prosecutor had asked the Supreme Court to reactivate the international arrest warrant. Puigdemont is wanted by the Spanish central government for his role in organising an illegal independence referendum in Catalonia last year. He's arrived in Denmark to take part in a debate organised by the University of Copenhagen.
Turkish ground forces and rebel allies have advanced into northern Syria in President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's campaign to crush Kurdish fighters. The oddly named Olive Branch military operation, which began on Saturday with artillery and airstrikes, has opened up a new front in Syria's civil war. Turkish troops are now said to have moved into Syria's Afrin region as it establishes a 30-kilometre safe zone deep inside Syria. Turkey considers the Kurdish YPG militia a terrorist group and wants it cleared from its border. Speaking to a congress of his ruling AK party, President Erdogan accused Turkey's allies of arming the YPG, a comment that appeared aimed at the United States. The US, which has backed the YPG as it battles so-called Islamic State, has called for restraint. But on Sunday, Turkish artillery pounded YPG positions while rockets fired from inside Syria slammed into Turkish border towns, wounding dozens, according to a local governor's office. Meanwhile, hundreds of people in the northern Syria Kurdish town of Al-Muda have held a protest rally against the Turkish military operation.
Japan's Prime Minister may have spent the past week talking trade and economic ties with Baltic and Eastern European leaders, but Shinzo Abe is still greatly concerned with North Korea's nuclear ambitions. On the sidelines of his 6-country tour, Euronews correspondent James O'Hagan spoke to Japan's foreign ministry spokesman, who said Tokyo is still actively seeking partners to form an international alliance amid growing tensions in the region. The threat level is unprecedented, and once more missiles from North Korea can now reach Europe, he said. So we're interested in uniting with other states which share our vision of the region and ones willing to cooperate with us against this menace.
Les sentiments que nous avons, les visions que nous avons sur cette région et de coopérer davantage pour faire face à cette menace sans précédent.
Shinzo Abe's six-nation trip to Europe was the first of its kind for any Japanese Prime Minister, as he seeks support at home and abroad to change the country's pacifist constitution.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has suggested the UK could get a special trade deal with the EU after Brexit.
Sure, but I take these two references because this special way should be consistent with the preservation of the single market and our collective interest. And you should understand that you cannot, by definition, have the full access to the single market if you don't tick the box.
But he warned that Britain would not have full access to the single market without accepting its rules. Mr Macron's comments came during his first visit to the UK since becoming French president, where he held talks with Prime Minister Theresa May. He warned, as Brussels has already done, that the UK could not cherry-pick the elements it liked. But he added that unplugging the City of London from the European financial structure did not make any sense because of what it contributed to the European Union.
As for the Brexit vote,
US Vice President Mike Pence has begun a visit to Israel in the latest leg of a Middle East tour, which is his first in the region since President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Pence was always sure of a warm reception. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already praised him as a great friend. I will discuss two issues with him, peace and security. On peace, I have a message for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. There is no alternative for American leadership in the diplomatic process. Whoever is not ready to talk with the Americans about peace doesn't want peace. The Palestinians are boycotting Pence over Trump's Jerusalem declaration. Mahmoud Abbas has called it a slap in the face and has rejected Washington as an honest broker in any future peace talks. Before arriving in Israel, Pence had held a tense meeting in Jordan in which King Abdullah appealed for a US effort to rebuild trust and confidence in the region. And at an earlier meeting, Pence is said to have encouraged Egypt's leader to pressure the Palestinians to return to peace talks, saying he backed a two-state solution.
Girls in underwear pose in squalid rooms of converted shops along the narrow streets near Brussels' Gare du Nord. African women sell their bodies for as little as €20, barely half the rate charged by Western prostitutes. They make big gestures to try and attract us. Regarding the price, these women are ready to do a lot of things for little money. You can see that they're nervous, the women who need to get the money. Sometimes I wonder if they're 18 years old because they seem to be very young. Nigerian prostitutes number in their hundreds in Belgium, all victims of human trafficking. Some are just 14 years old, a problem that's growing in the country. It's a brothel madam who contacts families who are often relatively poor, promising a great future for the girls. They'll go to school, they'll be babysitters. And they make a contract with a voodoo ritual that will commit the girl to repaying the debts, which will be fixed between 40 and 70,000 euros. The ritual makes sure that she feels the life of her mother, her siblings, and her own life is in her hands, so she must repay it. The police say they'll tackle the problem head-on, but the reality is that it's a vicious cycle that's difficult to get out of. The girls are often exploited by former prostitutes who've become pimps. Once their debt's repaid after many years, these girls become madams themselves.
The Swiss ski resort of Zermatt is once again cut off from the world because of heavy snowfall. Villages across the area have been heavily affected, with 28 homes having to be evacuated in Zinal. The roof of the church in Zermatt is getting so heavy that it's in danger of collapsing. Someone had to be lowered onto the roof by a helicopter to knock some of the weight off. With about 9,000 holiday guests in the town, long queues built up to take the helicopter shuttle, the only option left to get home, as the roads and railway lines were closed due to the danger of avalanches. There's also lots more snow in the north of the Tessin region. No trains were able to get through the Gotthard tunnel to Airolo, although some services were able to resume in the afternoon.
Mr. President.
A US government shutdown is entering its third day as senators failed once again to reach an elusive immigration deal. Democrats are refusing to fund the government until an agreement's been reached on the status of dreamers, young people brought to the country illegally as children.
And all of this was totally unnecessary. There is a broad consensus on both sides of the aisle that DACA and other issues related to illegal immigration require a compromise solution. Bipartisan, bicameral negotiations have been underway for months. But they can go nowhere until Senate Democrats realize the extreme path their leader has charted leads them nowhere.
Amidst mounting frustration, the Republican Senate leader promised a February immigration vote if Democrats agreed a temporary funding deal.
Americans know why the dysfunction is occurring. A dysfunctional president. Hence, we are in a Trump shutdown. And party leaders who won't act without him. It has created the chaos and the gridlock we find ourselves in today.
In New York, the political impasse has tangible results, with the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island closed to tourists. The city's Democratic governor has promised to pay the site's government employees to return to work after the weekend.
Termina no momento com o espaço comercial, agora no Back Deporte.